How are you guys? Welcome back to Wargaming China, and we're back on the Chi River to see how Liu Xiaoyi's 31st Army Group did against the Japanese 13th Division. It was a good game. I had initially planned to make the game a 12 turn game. But if the Japanese had rolled and got the river crossing, I would have had to extend that to maybe 18 turns. However, it was a very good game, and the Japanese rolled a 4, which meant that they had to occupy this hill, drive down the flank, and attack the bridge. Well, the game ended in a tactical Chinese victory because the Chinese are still controlling the other side of the river. They did manage to blow the bridge in the last turn 12. How the game progressed was that the Japanese committed 6 infantry companies plus support to take this hill. Now, the hill was taken, but the Japanese infantry battalion that took the hill was down to 1.5 companies by the time the hill fell. Luckily enough, and funnily enough, the Chinese defending this, the Chinese battalion, even though they were taking 150mm artillery fire, 105s, 75mm, and attaining heavy casualties at every turn, their morale never broke. They passed every single morale test until the final test, which they failed, and then had to retreat 2 full moves, which was good for the Chinese players. That allowed them to get a good head start on the pursuing Japanese. Now, I played this game with my mate Alistair over the internet, and to be honest, the Japanese took a bit of a hammering in this game. The 13.2mm Hotchkiss, which I'd set up there, destroyed the 2 combat cars, and then it got almost close to the bridge. It was nearly evacuated. This infantry battalion here, as I said, I dug this in depth and I left 1 minefield here. The Japanese within here were stalemated. They couldn't advance or retreat, took so many casualties. But at the same time, the Chinese held it for a bit too long, so they were a bit too late to get off the table. So they're trapped on the other side here, which is what happened in the actual battle, and then the Chinese forces filtered back. However, here, the Alistair set 180 gun up here. It had originally been here, then it was pulled back and redeployed here, and that destroyed these 2 guns side by side holding the passage here, the little valley, destroyed 2 tankettes and an armoured car before the Japanese armour was able to come up and engage them and destroy them. Now, in rapid fire, we always have to be 6 armoured vehicles tanks have to stay 6 inches away from dug-in infantry, so I couldn't push them up here until later in the game. It was a good game. The armoured trolley was knocked out by the 47mm that was deployed here before it was moved, and that put the kibosh on the artillery support from the armoured train. And throughout the game we were rolling for the arrival of a Japanese aerial observation liaison aircraft to coordinate the 105s and 150s. But it didn't turn up on the table until I think it was turn 10. So the Japanese, the Chinese that were deployed beyond the front line were spared a lot of artillery. These Chinese that were deployed here were spared most artillery throughout the game until they were spotted by the aircraft. This defensive position, because bearing in mind these are 4th rate troops, not every single one's got a rifle, so there was a lot of modifiers on their rolls. So this was the best tactic. The Japanese were totally stalled taking this hill. So all in all, a tactical draw. I'll just go through and show you some of the fire support that the Japanese had. Absolutely loads of machine guns. 70. This is the thing, even a regular Chinese army unit was vastly outnumbered in terms of firepower by its opposite number, like a Chinese infantry regiment was no match even in firepower or technique or training for a Japanese infantry battalion. So for these Guangxi provincial troops to hold this position, and remember, the fighting here lasted from about the 4th of January until the 31st of January. So for the 31st Army to hold this position for so long against such a vastly superior enemy is we've got to give our fair respects to the Guangxi Provincial Army, the army of the Guangxi clique. I don't know how they pulled it off, but they did. So from here they will pull back to a line that's been prepared called the Dingyuan-Fengyang line, and that's where the next game will be. And I hope you join me for it. I hope you press like and subscribe, and I'll just give you one last tour through the battlefield. And as I said, it was a very good game. Really enjoyed it. I also perhaps kept the Chinese on the table a bit too long, longer than I would have, but then again, he's not used to playing the Chinese. As I said, good game, good result. Alright, see ya.